Welcome to Triggers and Spiritual Medicine, a community built and grassroots based podcast that addresses the root issues and triggers at the intersection of our health, systems of oppression, and cultural conditioning. Together, we explore what it is truly ailing us as human beings in today's world. This space is non commercialized, so no advertising dollars are involved because our mission is clear to dive deep into our heart of our collective struggles and discover the spiritual medicine that can heal us personally within our families, our communities, and our collective. Each week or each month, we sit down with extraordinary guests who share their wisdom and offer at least 3 actionable steps to help you on your journey. This is more than just a conversation. It's a call to action, a chance to tap into the healing tools we all need to move forward as a species. We explore root systems and causes through stories of healing and recovery from anything from addiction, cancer, chronic illness, domestic abuse, and more. We'll also learn from wisdom keepers, astrologers, medicine people, and lineage holders of sacred traditions, unraveling the mysteries that have survived a millennia, and examining why in Western societies we are sicker than ever before. You'll hear stories from people who have used spiritual medicine in their healing journey, whether through meditation, Reiki, expressive arts, yoga, plants, or by unpacking religious indoctrination, persecution, or decolonizing mental constructs. If you believe in this mission, please consider subscribing and support our podcast by commenting, engaging, and sharing it with others. Again, it is through your engagement our visibility increases, since we do not have any grants or advertising dollars to support this podcast. You can also become a Patreon member to help support our domestic violence community and sacred activist work. Memberships start for free, or you can join for as little as $5 a month to gain insider information, exclusive content, and more. So whether you are a healer, seeker, or simply just curious, you're in the right place. So let's journey together. So this episode of Triggers and Spiritual Medicine, we're going to be going into a little more in depth, or a little more of an update about what is happening collectively and through tarot and numerology. And I just wanted to recap, since we are talking January 2025, right? Who would have thought we would be here? Those of us that are old enough will get what I mean. I mean, the new year holds so much for us on so many levels, and I actually had to write notes for myself so I stay on task with what we're going to be talking about. So this episode in December, if you missed it, we talked about the astrology, numerology, and tarot influences moving into 2025, and I brought in my wonderful colleague Jill Jardine. So if you missed that episode, I highly recommend you go check out that episode that was in December. So Triggers of Spiritual Medicine started out basically by accident. It started off as a request from folks in my community to join a weekly support, kind of like an all-day thing for folks during the pandemic who were struggling. And it just naturally grew into, actually it started off as like trauma triggers and spiritual medicine. And it grew into something that we did just very organically. To Spirit said, hey, we need to turn this into a podcast. So we did. And it has been an amazing journey so far. We still don't take any advertising dollars. This is community led. And this episode is really going to be talking about the 2025 energy through tarot, numerology. It is the year of the snake, and a really simple month to month outlook, January through July. And you're going to want to stay towards the end because we're going to bridge how to what the action steps are, what you can do to embrace for what's ahead, and talk a little bit about why pilgrimages are really so potent right now as far as the medicine we are seeking. So let's just recap what 2024 has been about, okay? One of the things that has been showing up in this dragon year, in this 8 cycle numerology, has been the concept of simultaneous duality. And it is something that really hit us, those of us who joined us for the pilgrimage in 2024. We really got to actually see it play out simultaneously while we were there. All these things that were magical that were happening at the same time, we were seeing sacred sites that had not been, tampered with by the English, the Norse, the Vikings, other Celts, and other warring tribes for thousands of years. And I believe it was, my timeline is getting a little warped, I want to say in 2023, 3 major sites were desecrated. And I think going to one, I saw how folks were climbing to this grave that is thousands of years old, cracking open rocks for crystals. And what I've learned from my indigenous teachers and friends and colleagues is, guess what? There's a reason why, like, the other, dominating forces never tampered with this, because they understood one thing: you don't anger the spirits of the land. You just don't do that. And that carries a huge karmic load that you might wonder why, things aren't going your way. And I feel like that theme might continue to play out in 2025. But before I go into 2025, I wanted to finish the recap of 2024. So in 2024, we saw a lot of paradoxes and coexisting opposites, how light and dark, growth and stagnation, hope and despair really unfolded side by side, as I just mentioned above. But, you know, we had global events marked by both breakthroughs and setbacks. I mean, we're going through really like polar ends of the spectrum of what is really happening. We have an ongoing genocide that is happening in Gaza that the world can't ignore, but yet we want to fluff it with something else, right? But then at the same time, we have this collective rising up that I'm going to go into because it's really what's going to be leaning into moving into 2025. So a lot of this requires, one of the things I've always learned is we can't fix what's external of us, including in Gaza, until we fix our and clean up our own backyards. That includes our own internal environment. And that is one of the things I've seen on an increasing level that folks are really seeking to really address. And a lot of what I've been seeing is not even just our own junk that we shoved in the closets, but the junk that's been carrying in our DNA from our parents, our grandparents, 7 generations back, whether it's victimization or systems of oppression or chronic illness and all these other things. It's all surfacing, or even past life. It's all surfacing to be dealt with. Because if we haven't dealt with it yet, guess what? Next year is a 9-year numerology, which means that guess what? It's like shitting it off the pot. Like that's just where it's at, right? So 2024 really taught us a lot about how to hold space for that duality without losing balance, right? It's about embracing the coexistence of opposing forces as a catalyst for that deeper growth. That is really what 2024 taught us. The dragon energy, I use the analogy a lot. And we just did this at Solstice where I talked about why is it in European cultures we see the dragon as an enemy? Like we gotta slay the dragon, we gotta kill the dragon, right? The dragon's a bad thing. And the dragon, first of all, is like a step away from the snake energy, okay? He's like, St. Patrick's going to drive out the snakes. Well, that's all about feminine power. It's all about the shadow aspect. Because, like in Asia, in a lot of Asian countries, the dragon is seen as a god. It is worshipped. It is valued. It is seen as an element, a force to be reckoned with, but also a force to be respected. So these are the things like I know I've personally been sitting with, right? And so we did a lot because we had a very important pivotal election. And if you've cut some of my YouTube lives or TikTok lives, I've gone into details about what I've seen unfolding. I've had to sit a lot with, I've done a lot of election predictions, last four, and this is the first one I technically got wrong, and I had to sit with it because I was like, what was I not looking at? What was I missing? What did I not see? Because this was the most sure election I thought. Like there was no way because everything, the astrology, the numerology, the tarot, all lined up to a T. And then we have things which I'm not going to really go into for this particular episode, but let's just say that there may have been some orchestrated things to make sure that certain people got into office. And I think that's what we're going to see unfold moving into 2025. And some of the things that we're seeing with duality, for instance, how that shaped our societal and political dynamics in 2024. Things are very divided, but I think there's also an element of folks trying to figure out, okay, how do we bridge again? I think there is an element of how do we bridge fences again, cross fences and create bridges. More bridges, less fences, right? So now we're at the end, right? We just ended or we're ending 2024, moving into 2025. And so we're going to be transitioning from that aspect that's really heavy of duality, all those things in our shadow aspects, whether it's, again, our personal life, past life, or generational stuff that has been surfacing for us. Now we're moving into a 9 year, again, which is like a closing of a chapter, but it's also about discernment. Discernment is the word that I keep hearing that really needs to play out because this is what I know about triggers. Triggers aren't the issue. It is listening to what that trigger is trying to signal. It is nothing more than an inner GPS saying, hey, you know what, this thing over here is really unresolved, so I'm going to highlight over here. So it's the thing that gives you like all amped up isn't the issue, it's what is the real issue underneath that. And when we can create space to see underneath that, then we can discern what's true and what's not moving into 2025. Okay. And that's some of the things that we've been doing even in our weekly women's circles on Zoom. So, if you feel like you need extra support, be sure to join us for one of those Wednesdays that we're going to be doing for at least another month or two, and then we're going to reevaluate. As I will be traveling again. So we will see how that all unfolds. I always trust spirit to guide me to be where I am needed and how to move forward to be a support and a catalyst, not only for healing, but for change. So now the tarot and numerology for 2025. So again, like 2024 was like, I look at it as like anybody who's ever owned fish before, when you're cleaning the fish tank, right? All this crap that you went from clear water to all of a sudden it's murky and it's toxic because if you don't filter it right, it can kill the fish, right? So that is what is happening. We've been doing a lot of deep cleansing, internal cleansing. Whether it has been showing up where we're actually taking action, we're taking notice, we're aware of it and we're addressing it, consciously, or it's showing up subconsciously, either as illness, disease, as reactions, as, kind of like things that are putting cracks or dents into structures that are in your life, whether it's career, family, marriages, all these things, right? So what we've been doing has been facing a lot of these hard truths, a lot of karmic things, a lot of duality. And so now moving into 2025, we're going to continue to move and work with the shadow aspect. Again, we have been conditioned that the shadows are bad, they're evil, it's the devil, the underworld. I mean, Hollywood plays it, religion plays it, all three religions play it. But what I've learned, same thing with the dragon, like when we can befriend the dragon, we befriend the shadow, all those things that we disown or shove under the carpet, that we don't want to look at, when we befriend that, it no longer controls our life. This is an opportunity to really turn triggers into a power. So that is a lot of the theme that we're going to navigate in 2025. It is about how do we turn our triggers into that power. It's about ancestral and generational healing. And what I feel is a lot of big changes that are coming. So it's like getting ready to move, as we stage the house and we're getting ready to move. So we're decluttering, we're getting rid of things, and we're figuring out what to keep. I moved into a new place. I'm still figuring out, it's been a year, and I'm still figuring out how to organize and put systems in place. So that way life can move easier for me, right? So in 2025, the duality and balance, beginnings of a fool's journey, the duality and rebalance, again, in preparation for this change that is coming, right? So again, think discernment. So the overall themes that I have found in tarot include, let me see if I can find it. I just put these up. This is the deck I use, by the way, as well as this deck. So it's the Russian Tarot and the Animal Tarot deck. So I usually pulled one card for each. And because I have a small area, I did kind of put them all back. But anyway, so the overall themes, you want to think of big, swift changes are ahead. So whether we're talking political, personal, or collectively, and again, we can't make the big changes politically until we collectively work on ourselves, and then that creates the ripples throughout. I do feel, I will say, and I have said this before, I do feel that I do not feel Trump will stay in office. Whether it is, and everything that I have pulled with Trump involves the death card, but it also involves, there's a lot of investigations, and as I have said on some of the lives, I feel like there's a lot of investigations, and some of my predictions have already come true, like Musk being shut down with his security clearance, and because of his links to international crime organizations and his personal drug use. I also feel that Trump, if he's not in office, I feel like by July, something's gonna break. Now, I've been sitting with a lot of things that I've been feeling, nudges. One being whether or not Biden uses the thing that Trump put in place with the Supreme Court, granting immunity, and whether or not, because of the investigation that is going on, that is really being spearheaded internationally, might delay the inauguration for the first time in history. If that happens, I feel like it will be resolved by June or July of 2025. So, and we will get a lot more answers. But either way, I do not feel Trump will be in office after July. So there's a lot of things happening in the air, but there's a lot, There's a lot of switch changes that's going to address things like the patriarchal structures, toxic capitalism, the imperialism, and religious conditioning, because all these are weaved, again, unpacking all of our ancestors didn't grow up with the three main religions that ended up being multi-billion-dollar enterprises. Yes, I did say it. And it doesn't mean that some of the foundations and teachings aren't true, but a lot of it came and was implemented into the three main religions due to certain pagan and indigenous practices depending on the region. All right. So some of the continuing themes moving into 2025, including this really strong masculine energy that is engaging in dominance and oppression. Why? Because it's losing power. There's a huge rise of non-binary and feminine goddess power. There's an entity that I work with a lot. Her name is, I see her as a her, and that's Sanju Kanan. Although Sanju Kanan in Shinto traditions is non-binary, not seen as masculine or feminine. So, and that also might change depending on the region, but for the most part is non-binary. I think we're going to start seeing a rise, and Sanju Kanan, by the way, is the Bodhisattva for love and compassion. They have 1,000 different tools and 1,000 different hands because they have tools and gifts. They can see things that we can't see and help us shift and move that when we call on and invoke on Sanju Kanan. Sanju Kanan has temples throughout Japan that are purely dedicated to them. So other changes include, need to see here, stick to my notes. So cards, the two cards that I pulled, so what I did is I pulled like a one card but two different decks, general themes for the year. Then I did a 3-card pull, which represents where we were, where we are, where we're going. And then I did a 1-card pull from each deck regarding each month. So that it goes into the energies for each month. Okay. So the overall card that I pulled includes both the King of Swords and the 9 of Clubs. On the 9 of Clubs, also the 9 of Wands. So there's a lot of this, again, duality, a lot of strong, intelligent, analytical leadership that has acquired knowledge and doesn't necessarily mean good wisdom or bad wisdom, just general knowledge. Also could mean deception, abusive power. So the throne represents the position of power. Now, when we move into, the 9 of Clubs, the 9 of Clubs really talks about perseverance through challenges. We're not done yet. So it's like we've got all this stuff. We've gone through so much. And then we go, oh my God, not again. Really? I just can't take one more thing, right? How many of you can relate to that? Like, we're not done yet. A time of preparation before the completion. Again, next year this year, 2025 is a year of completion. So this is preparation time. This is like really going into your closets, whether you need to literally go into your closets and start looking at what makes you feel at peace and at home and what does not, and learning to discern what to keep and what to get rid of. And that goes within your internal closet, right? Also, this is a year, this also signifies testing your limits and boundaries and your resilience. So we have faced so many obstacles and we've had the strength. I know it really sucks being the strong one, right? This is a call to really push through. that your inner will keep going even though challenges might still arise. This is a time, both these cards really talk about like your courage needs to be stronger than your fear. So I like to do the stop, pause, breathe. What's the action step? Because big changes ahead is going to require strength. With that said, as we stated in the December podcast, we do anticipate a lot of people voluntarily, not intentionally, but like through health, disease, all these things that are going to be transitioning. So we feel like there is going to be a lot of transitions, maybe lack of access to healthcare, all of these things. So both really talk about new beginnings and endings. This is creative destruction. So this is a time of struggle that requires really swift, logical decisions and establishing healthy boundaries. And a reminder to stay strong, resilient, and persevere through any challenges that we might be facing. A lot of us are ending 2024 with a lot of fear, especially around finances, political structures, job, being burnt out from your job, health challenges, health care, insurance. I can make a list and go on. There's a lot of burdens that people are feeling internally. We may even feel immensely exhausted as we deal with these challenging situations right now. But the King of Swords is really kind of showing us to remain strong, to remain level-headed and rational. Again, get out of the head when triggered and get into that soul body, because that soul body is going to show you how to move forward. Because the Nine of Wands or the Nine of Clubs is really warning us to really be cautious and not let down our guard. It doesn't mean be panicking. It just means know when to put up a boundary and when not to, right? Until you can establish really good, like a good boundary, really. Remember to protect your energy, protect your health, protect your time. That means like when your boss says that they want you to work, when you took a job, just be working 40 hours and they want you to work 90, they're not going to pay you. And yet, this is some of the things we're going to be juggling in 2025. It's knowing when to say no and trusting that you will still be provided for, because we're not indentured servants to corporate and billionaires as they rape our culture for profits. Okay, as Elon Musk said recently, that, or his mother, that they need slaves to build their products. And so it's up to us to rebel and say no more. The power to the people. And to understand that relying on our own inner strength and resilience and following the advice of our inner king of swords, that we can overcome basically any obstacle that is really ahead of us. Anything. That is what we're being reminded. Okay? So now the 3 card pulls that I pulled. For the past, I pulled the King of Coins, or which is also the King of Pentacles, and the Nine of Pentacles. So I found that very interesting. Both deal with materialism, material wealth. Overall theme is on the material world because it's the suit in Pentacles. So you're dealing with material wealth, security, prosperity, indicates a period of accomplishment and stability and self-sufficiency. This reminds us to find balance between financial security and spiritual well-being for a more fulfilling life. That's what we need to really look into. So that is where we were. I mean, that's kind of where the US was, right? If you're from the United States, where a lot of the Western countries were. Material comfort, financial stability, resourcefulness. But we have forgotten that a lot of our resourcefulness came from slave labor. We're just not seeing it because it's happening in other countries. And what is happening now in the present, the cards I pulled for the present, are the 7 of Pentacles or coins and the Devil card. Don't panic. And since I did it from the Raven, since I did it from this deck here, that is, now see if I can pull it real quickly. It's the Raven. And the Raven, so, this has to do with duality and polar extremes, opportunity to usher in the lasting change and growth that we're seeking, and ending of a prolonged period of hard work. That's the Nine of Pentacles, by the way, if you can see that. So, and here's the Devil here. Okay, so that's the Raven and the Animal Tarot deck. So this has a lot to do with shape shifting and a lot of shadow work. That means that, again, some of us might experience a lot of loss, right? It doesn't necessarily always mean physical, but it also can mean a reassessing of our efforts so we know how to move forward. This also, both cards, both the Seven of Coins and, let me see, Seven of Swords. Oh, see if I can find the Seven of Coins. But the Seven of Coins, both of them assure us that the ending of this cycle, like 7, is an ending of a cycle. So the Seven of Coins reminds us, like, we have to be patient. We just did all this work to birth, and now we have to wait for the fruit in the trees to ripen before we harvest it. So that's what that's really talking about. And, for new things to begin. So that is where, I can't seem to find it real quickly, but anyway, this is couple. So the Death, the Raven, is heralding in big changes. Okay, the Devil. Sorry, not the Death card, the Devil. I said the Death card, I meant the Devil. So the Devil is really like that ending of significant change. It's the passion, it's the fire in your belly. By the way, it's also misconceived because, again, like the Raven, for instance, has a strong connection to the Morrigan, okay? The Irish Celtic goddess who was demonized because she represented the ultimate feminine power that couldn't be controlled. So what did the church do? When Christianity was brought over to Ireland, they demonized her, okay? So she's a lot of times considered very close connection to the Raven. So when you think of all this, you want to also think of shadow work and transformation work. But really, you got to have that fire in your belly, that deep transformative work. Now, for the future card, I pulled the Ace of Clubs and the Justice card, which, I don't know, I find this a nice, if you want to say, this is transformation. This is like the caterpillar is now becoming the butterfly, trying to break free from her cocoon, right? So the Ace of Clubs or the Ace of Wands is that card for energy, passion, new beginnings, new ventures, collective shift, ancestral healing, reclamation from systems of oppression. This is where new beginnings, a burst of energy, maybe a spark of desire, all of a sudden things are going to feel like you don't feel that weight anymore. You actually feel that weight to move forward because justice is going to happen. And the elephant represents like the balancing of the scales, truth and order, spiritual growth, community building, loyalty, family wisdom. Listen more than we speak. And it doesn't mean listen to TV. It means go into the silence, go into the spirit realm, go into the trees, go into the ocean or the lakes and the rivers and listen. Listen to the spirits of the earth and let them guide you. So the justice is really also about the fairness and accountability. So there's going to be some accountability coming up. So this is where you got to have your faith needs to be stronger than your fears. Also means outcomes of our actions depend on our integrity, honesty, and fairness. So when we add both the justice and I look at the Ace of Clubs, things are going to happen very quickly. Things are going to happen very swiftly. It's going to happen. actions are going to happen, new opportunities are going to happen, justice, balance, creativity. It urges us to do this with honesty and integrity. Again, think of the word discernment that we talked about as an overall theme. We have to be able to discern when things are on either side. So this combination really talks about that fair, just manner. So this is where I do feel like we're going to see some things happening in the political realms, in Congress. There's going to be a lot of head shaking, and a lot of things that maybe we really didn't want to look at. All right. Now, for January, so now we look at for January. So January, we have the Eight of Cups and we have the Hermit. So this is really, we've been working really hard. We've been really asking and seeking how are we going to make change. So this is really, the Eight of Cups is really talking, coins, I'm sorry, is really talking about how much we've created, what we need to do, taking a look at the mastery before we take the next steps. But the Hermit is also asking for us to do more introspection. So in January, it's not a coincidence, guys. I mean, we're in the third trimester of the womb of winter. This is like being the 7th-month-old fetus in the womb. We're like in that last trimester. We don't birth anything outside. We birth it in the darkness. So this is the prime time for seeking that guidance, that wisdom. So this is a call to really reevaluate and look at the external structures and how we're going to move forward. A lot of the focus energetically will be around even space weather and environmental pressures. There'll be we're still in that peak solar year. Things are going to be transitioning, but there's still going to be a lot of activity. So, which could be influencing you emotionally and mentally and technological for the month of January. Political energy really calls for us to unify amidst all the heightened tensions in the US and globally. February, you want to think cooperation and partnerships. You want to think of trusting your intuition and seeking your hidden truths. There'll be an environmental focus. It's also the time when we plant our seeds to see what we're going to be planting for the spring. There'll be continued shifts in weather patterns, emphasizing water-related events. And collective themes will continue around advocacy for women's health and sovereignty. That will gain momentum. I do believe there'll be a lot more. I am one of those, get off the TV, get off the sofa, get off the internet, get off your phones, and look at where can you place your physical body in politicians' offices or on the streets, organizing, rallying, and looking and creating change. It's not going to happen sitting on the sofa watching the news and complaining about how things suck. It's about taking action. And what are those action steps? We are each can't take care of everything. So pick one thing that you feel passionate about. And at least you can say you're doing that. Okay? March, the energy again is going to continue for growth and communication. This is a time for fertility. The space weather will continue with solar flares sparking innovation, but also tension. And the US political themes is going to be a pivotal month for legislative decisions impacting the next decade. There's a lot of duality that's going to also continue for the first 6 months of the year on if Trump gets in, What happens? Does that mean JD Vance takes over, or does Biden, because of what is revealed from the international community, as I've already been stating, the international community is the one that's investigating some of the corruption in the US because there's like legitimate like nuclear and other shit like we have to like think about. So this is where we're at. So those are some of the things that are going to happen for the next 6 months. In April, I do see a lot of stabilization and reflection, and there'll be rising grassroots movements for systemic change. And even in April, we also have Earth Day, so this is going to be amplified for calls of sustainability and addressing climate concerns. It's also the month for sexual assault awareness and child abuse awareness. So there's a huge growing movement around family court reforms to address family abuse, family court abuses. In May, we're talking more shifts and alignments around public consciousness. And I feel like in May, there's going to be unexpected revelations or whistleblower events that influence global power dynamics. You heard it in May. I said by July, Trump won't be in office. So does Biden like use like that Supreme Court presidential immunity clause and say he's going to delay the inauguration due to some sort of investigation involving the Espionage Act or something along those lines, and involving foreign money, foreign powers influencing that create a security risk? And I feel like that is a dynamic that I have been playing with and listening to. I'm not exactly sure. I feel like there's too many variables, whether or not, but at the end of the day, I will just say I don't see Trump in office by July. Okay. By June, there's going to be, you want to think nurturing relationships, focusing, rising concerns around biodiversity and ecosystems, and heightened focus on domestic policies around justice and equity. By July, we're talking about more reflection and introspection. I already said what we thought about the political system, but I feel like there's going to be breakthroughs in diplomacy as well as in the innovation amidst ongoing tensions. So a lot of what I'm seeing now, when we talk about it being the year of the snake, right? In Chinese astrology, the snake is seen as like wisdom, mystery, elegance, strategic thinking, right? Navigating 2025 with calm calculation and a focus on how the relationship is going to be paramount when you're working with the snake energy. Snakes are all about like waiting, observing, and knowing when to strike. And when you strike fast, you strike hard, you strike to kill. That's what the snakes do. But also, it is connected to health, healing, and feminine power. So those areas collectively are going to be very strong around the areas of health, areas of women's rights, and shedding goddess energy, shedding old skins. It's about rebirthing, women's sovereignty, honoring the body as sacred. And the snake is the epitome of discernment, protecting what matters while releasing what doesn't. So here are 3 tips to help you navigate 2025 energies. The first step is pause before you act. So I always say this, I teach this to my clients: stop, pause, and create that space. So you take a breath, and then what's the action step? Align with the decisions that are alignment with your own intuition and deeper wisdom, not out of triggered reactive responses. Avoid reacting that impulsivity, because 2025 is about strategic discernment. Second step, Prioritize your health and inner alignment. Again, that's that snake energy. Think of the caduceus. Snakes are, again, how can we see snakes? So this is the caduceus, right? Also, we talk about what's happening with the healthcare industry in the U.S., the evil empire, how we've turned healthcare into a profit model instead of care model for people. But at the same time, it's about healing. So the second step is really prioritize your health and inner alignment. Engage in the practices like breath work, yoga, Reiki, Shinrin Yoku, forest bathing, other pagan or indigenous practices to maintain your own physical and energetic balance. Look to your own ancestors, your wise and healed ancestors, to guide you on how to move forward with that. Focus on what nourishes and supports your own sovereignty without treading and trying to control somebody else's sovereignty. The third step, embrace the shedding and renewal. Again, we're in that 9-year, that completion year. It's still about cleaning out the closet so you can begin 2026 with a fresh new start. Release what no longer serves you, including those outdated beliefs, that societal conditioning, that generational trauma, that ancestral wounding, that abuse, systems of oppression, and use things like journaling, rituals, and meditation to reflect on what needs to transform in your life. This does require you to slow down. This does require you to create space for yourself, because you can't make decisions. This is why we have trouble with healthcare. There's no way a doctor can make a proper informed diagnosis in 10 minutes. I see clients for 1-hour sessions. I say it takes sometimes 3 sessions to really get an idea of what's going on in the body and how it's moving forward in whatever that disharmony is in the body, to get an idea. It could take 3 sessions because the body doesn't move like that, right? So some of my final reflections include things: a reaffirmation of 2025 as the year of discernment, transitioning from duality of 2024. This is a year of encouragement to trust and deepen your own intuition and to embrace transformation. And you might want to review December's episode to really get a deeper insight to what's happening astrologically the first 6 months of the year. And in February, we will continue for more, to be determined on what we're going to talk about in February. And this is where we're going to continue the journey into deeper spiritual practices and connections, because that's what this podcast is all about, right? It is about addressing the triggers and then what's the spiritual medicine to bring you wholeness in that. So I have immense gratitude for everybody that has listened this far, with the ongoing support, the ongoing shares. And I am going to ask you, if you need extra support, I do have these mugs and I do have the t-shirts, 2 different designs. I don't have the other one with me right now, but it basically says, your soul knows better than you, so get the feck out of the way, because that is really the theme for 2025. Okay, so this is some of the merchandise. If it calls to you, reach out to me. I do limited shipping. I don't have it on the internet because I'm just not there yet. I listen, I channel messages, I do the thing, but technology and me don't get along. So this is also an invitation to join me on Patreon, where you can get exclusive insights and community engagement. We have a lot happening in 2025. We have a lot more collaborations that we're going to be doing. We are still currently running the weekly women's circle that is happening every Wednesday on Zoom. You can also more than welcome to join us. We have 2 spots at the time of this recording available for the sacred pilgrimage, because guess what? That's the other thing, by the way, and that is really strong, is going on these deep pilgrimages to really unpack that cultural conditioning, that systemic oppression that you have been conditioned to believe and co-opt the religious indoctrination. We're going to be unpacking it so we'll really go to the sacred lands for rituals and unpacking and healing in a very structured, supported circle and container while we visit some beautiful magic that helps support us so we can get clarity. We have 2 spots that are unclaimed for the sacred pilgrimage to Ireland. It is a 6-month journey that starts in February. The actual trip to Ireland is May or June. We have 2 groups going, and we have 2 spots. So if this calls to you, registration does close this month, because as soon as we start the journey in February, doors will be closed. So if this calls to you, please do reach out to us. And I look forward to sharing space with you again. And until next time, be kind to others, be kind to yourself. And again, remember discernment. And until next time, have a great day. I'm checking out on triggers and spiritual medicine. Make sure you share, like, do all those good things to help support this podcast. Have a good day, everybody. Bye-bye. So thank you for tuning into Triggers and Spiritual Medicine. We hope today's episode provided insights and action steps to support you on your personal journey. Remember, healing is a continuous process, and by addressing what triggers us, we create space for deeper transformation. If you would like to dive deeper into our community and support our sacred activist work, join us on Patreon, where you'll find more resources and insider content to empower your healing path. Be sure to subscribe on your favorite podcast platform or on YouTube. And please share, like, and engage with us too to help boost our algorithm status. Since this is a community-driven podcast, your support truly makes a difference in helping us reach more souls who can benefit from this journey. Stay connected, stay mindful, and keep doing that inner work. Together, we are building a community that uplifts and heals. So until next time, stay grounded and take care of your soul.